this thing loud enough from here?
We the people, ABCAmbaTV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Good evening and welcome to Untold. Into the news, Untold Stories. I am Star. Let's begin. I recognize that given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. These were part of Liz Truss's resignation speech. The pressure of responsibilities made the former Prime Minister of the UK quit. What would President Sako do then? With the in-house battles with fifth columnist, sabotage against his new criticism from people who have done nothing to help the struggle, disregard by some bodies. Would he give up? We've seen that leadership comes with a lot of responsibilities, and while a lot of significant figures around the world crash under pressure, we've seen our President Sako brace up even stronger with more determination to set homeland free in the face of adversities. One question that comes to mind is, accept the position if you cannot handle the pressures that come with it? Well, a lot of people would want to dethrone a leader to take his place, thinking the seat of leadership is warm and soft, but in reality, it's hot and hard. And only a determined leader can stand the time of it. And we have seen this in President Samuel Ikome Sako, a more than determined leader who has stood the test of time 6 long years, still determined and focused to bring us all to Boya. Tonight, these and many more stories we have for you, international and national stories that will inform you and be of value to you. So stay tuned as we have the prime headlines tell you more.
Headlines for today. Bamenda this morning is a video and a story that you would want to see. You want to see a routine after Monday's ghost town. A Bishop of Manfaith thanks negotiators for the release of collaborators abducted in Nchang village. Was Ngongo about to overthrow Aileen Bier? Is a story you would want to listen to. Probably a question you would answer as well. 11 people, including children, reportedly dead at the Salama School for the Blind in Luga Village, Bukono District, Uganda today. In sports, match day 5 of the UEFA Champions League continues on Wednesday. You want to know the features? Well, ensure that you join us on Undaunted.
The media greatly influences society and people about what is happening. It impacts people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media reach?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, and 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABCAmbaTV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABCAmbaTV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way around.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? Come on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
It is now a way of life in the entire Ambazonia as to what Mondays hold. The people of Southern Cameroon need now to be reminded again of the fact that Mondays are locked down. Instituted since 2017 by the people in solidarity to the fight for liberation from the grips of La Republic du Cameroon and a strategy to render Ambazonia ungovernable by La Republic du Cameroon administration. The people of Southern Cameroon, following the acceptance of the consideration given to Mondays, take it as the first working day of the week. The united force staged by the people of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia towards the fight for the restoration of the statehood of Ambazonia is glaring. Can such a united front be killed by cheap conspiracy? Now, this will begin the full briefing session on tonight. Star Spot is here as always. Good evening, Star.
Good evening, Onyi. Good evening, fellow Ambazonians. Undaunted made a tour in the early hours of today, October 25th, 2022, to an overview. Now, there is this video of a hospital roundabout area, and we have it here for you. It is indeed a busy day with denizens enthusiastic to go to their shops, offices, farms, and other income generating activities. Taxis and motorcycles that on Mondays are nowhere to be found are this morning dictating the pace at which pedestrians cross the roads. Boarding a cab or taking a bike this morning is survival of the fittest following the high demand for them. Like these mobility facilitating objects are not enough this morning because students with the pressure not to be late for school are prioritized. One would wonder where this mammoth crowd was yesterday, Monday, as the streets were empty, but I'm sure you know the answer. Now, someone says it is now a way of life and we are very much comfortable with it. Today is the first day of the week and activities must be at the normal. I am heading to my shop with no regrets. All my customers ordained by God for this week must come and patronize me without any adverse consequence because of yesterday's lockdown. A businessman hinted on this. Now, there's this video of the ambience at Up Station this morning and also the video of the hospital roundabout that we'll show to you shortly.
Bo tirga ko bo kenya ba ko nim do ko to ba yo to be I will talk about bringing with the one.
No, a cruise.
Happy no for you.
Now you can see the ambience at Up Station this morning and also a video of the hospital roundabout shortly. But this is how busy the roads have been today, being the first day of the week to Ambazonians. Now, also a cab driver confessed to Undaunted that on Tuesday is his best working day in terms of returns. He says, you yourself can see how the streets are busy. I'm sure you can see on screen. All road junctions full with passengers. You will not see any empty taxis this morning. All the taxis are full till about 12 noon that the road will be lighter. My financial position is more than others do. This is how the taxi driver. The regulator is more this not a big jump, more doctors. There's also a video about tariff holiday.
I will talk about bringing with the one.
No, a cruise.
Happy no for you.
The release of the priest and faithfuls kidnapped from the St. Mary's Catholic Parish in Chang Village September 16 has brought life to the spirit-troubled Catholic community and family members in general. Upon welcoming of these freed faithfuls, Reverend Musa Loisung Vong Mbangalo, Bishop of Manfi, in one of his many pronouncements, thanked those who were at the forefront negotiating for the release. The question Undaunted is asking is, who are those who were doing the negotiation? One, what were the terms of negotiations, given that the released ransom was paid?
We the people, ABCAmbaTV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Now, the released Catholic were brought into Mount from the state of Nigeria by the colonial military of La Republique du Cameroon on the later hours of Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. The presence of the unfortunate kidnapped priest and faithfuls now free put the bishops in an emotional high gear with tears flowing from his eyes uncontrollably. And after an emotional battle within the bishop, Aloysius Fondong Abangalo said words of appreciation to those who negotiated. Sees the negotiators rein and force behind the release of the faithfuls. The statement of the bishop is raising a lot of dust. Many are still to reconcile the words of appreciation to a group of negotiators and the freed priest's declaration that they were released without any ransom paid. An Amazonian countryman asked his question to Undaunted. Why is it the bishop is unable to cite the negotiators and the exact role they played? Unfortunately for this curious Amazonian, Undaunted is the one going around without unanswered questions for others to answer and not with answers for people's questions. While others are dwelling on the reaction of the beast, another is rather worried about the release of the Catholic faithfuls kidnapped in Chang village in Manfei being freed instead from Nigeria. Now, every indication points to government orchestrated kidnap. I hear that they were released somewhere in Ikom Cross River State in Nigeria from Nchang Manfei to more than 60 kilometers. Nchang is along the Nigerian-Cameroon Trans-African Highway. They could track Amazonians. Fighters don't have buses in which they can carry such a huge number of people. They will need at least a 20-seater bus to carry 9 abductees along with their guards.
Meanwhile, the bishop is organizing a special mass for the released victim that he said in this video you're about to watch.
I will submit from church, for Catholic Church. The only officials of God plenty have mass. And so Tuesday for 4 o'clock for cathedral. I invite all men for camp for cathedral, St. Joseph Cathedral, or maybe mass for thank God for these brothers and sisters where they don't come back for week. We know we live on for long. For Tuesday for 4 o'clock, all men go gather for cathedral. We don't give mass for thank God. We brothers at that time they will don't rest more. We'll give them support. That's fine so that the big power will attend that mass. So they will be with me. We go prayer. That they will go sing for cathedral for thank God. So now I go bless you now. And I go back and then they go stay with me. Not all yeah? Yes, my Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen from us here as well. Now, the freeders reported were brought in by the colonial military of La Republique du Cameroon from Nigeria with the intelligence information on the decks of Undaunted that La Republique is crossing over to neighboring Nigeria, hiring armed gunmen into Ambazonia to molest, kidnap, and kill the people of southern Cameroon, just to blackmail the Ambazonia Restoration Forces. Now, this act of La Republique du Cameroon colonial military smuggling themselves Nicodemously to and fro Nigeria is a strong signal to the fact. Bishop Aloysius Fondong, certainly after realizing that he has flaw with that revelation, turned to release thanks to Mama Maria, Mother of our Lord Jesus Christ. He then called on all to get a rosary and start using it for prayers because of its effectiveness.
We the people, ABCAmbaTV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
Now on to a hidden story. We have unconfirmed reports saying Colonel Beko Abondo, commander of the La République du Cameroon's Presidential Guard, for aborting the plot. It says without him, La République du Cameroon would have risen this Monday, October 24th, with a new president, Ferdinand Ngongo. The narrative continues that this situation would have been the culmination of a process initiated several years ago and in which expatriates, security advisors to President Biya play a leading role. Now, for years, the Bulubeti clan has been progressively building its takeover institutions and power and headed by Ferdinand Ngongo.
Undaunted learned that Ngonga currently controls the police with Mbanga Ngwele, the gendarmerie with Galas Etoga, as well as one of the elite units of La République du Cameroon Army, the Rapid Intervention Battalion B, led by his friend and associate Iran Moors. The clan has also taken control of Cameroon's airport and seaport. Ferdinand Ngongo has appointed nearly a dozen ministers who report only to him and not to the errand boy Prime Minister Dion. Not to mention, several general managers placed at the head of structures that generate cash, such as the Port of Douala, Sonara, CSPH, all Sonamis who pay allegiance only to him.
Now, Undaunted equally learned that it is a relative of Ferdinand Ngongo, who is the second in command of the Directorate of La République du Cameroon's presidential security. Now, it is his relative who controls transmissions at the presidency of the La République du Cameroon. Even the La République du Cameroon's army's Helios signals are controlled by his friend Eran Moas. Now, from every indication gathered, that the Bulubeti clan has thus taken control of the state and its vital resources. All that remains is for them to take supreme power. In the context of the end of the reign, the stakes are very high and the clan does not want to take any more risk. The rebellion of Ferdinand Ngongo is in reality only an episode in a deeper and more war at the heart of the state for the seizure of power by this clan.
Above all, it reveals the dangers of apportioning certain defense function to foreign contractors who, directly or indirectly, now control ports, airport communications, strategic raw materials, the security of oil interests, and other important parts of the national economy. In addition to placing their pawns, the clan has compromised on information on most of the high officials of the state. Remember the acquisition goal, the Pegasus software that allows spying on the communications of members of the government and senior officers of La République du Cameroon Army. Undaunted equally learned that this clan runs a posh bar in the Republic's capital, reputed to be ridiculed with microphones and spooks of all kinds.
Even though Colonel Beko Abondo, commander of the Presidential Guard, has hindered Ngongo and his accomplices from taking over power, Paul Biya's dementia state exposes the futility of La République du Cameroon, whose collapse may happen in a not too far distance. Last weekend, mystical signs were uncovered at a road junction near Yaoundé, with Ngongo's picture and those of Paul Biya and wife Chantal Biya found on a red sheet of cloth with two heads of cows. Probably another renowned marabout had been preparing the takeover at La République du Cameroon's presidency, a hub for mysticism and black magic.
We the people, ABCAmbaTV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
As you remembered, on Saturday we had county draft for FACO. Yes. Yesterday we analyzed the president's speech, but we felt we needed to give you an in-depth analysis of the president's speech. Well, today we decided to look in deeply and observe, analyze, and of course, set out some objectives that were mentioned, that the president mentioned in the speech from Saturday. Well, Starsmart has a report for you.
Saturday, October 22nd, 2022 was Draft 2022 for FACO County, the great and historical Federal Capital Territory of Ambazonia. Once more, President Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako addressed the nation in yet one of his most memorable speeches. The president welcomed everyone to the occasion, saying this draft was very special because it was for the hospital FACO County, which is also the Federal Capital Territory and seat of Ambazonians' institutional power. Our nation's history tells us that the Southern Cameroon's earliest parliamentarians and ministers of government used to proudly, courageously, decently, and freely practice democracy in the federal capital before 1966, when Ahido and French Cameroon brutally vandalized and dissolved our government. He named great local patriots and sons, such as the first head of state, His Excellency EML Ndele, and recently late Pa Mola Njoli Tumbe, and said he prayed for their wisdom, foresight, courage, and tenacity for us. He called for a moment of silent remembrance and honor for those heroes and for all to celebrate them and all other innocent comrades targeted and killed, especially our valiant patriotic volunteer soldiers and restoration forces defending our homeland. The president appealed to Ambazonians to come together as one by learning to identify ourselves solely, or most importantly, as Ambazonians, not as someone from Fako, Ndian, Meza, Momo, Ngoke, Tunja, or Boyi, or as of one's parents or the origin of one's name we bear, or the places of origin of one's ancestry. He warned against being a victim of the La Republic virus, a divide and rule syndrome that is worse than COVID or Ebola, that keeps people divided.
My father originated from Guia, but my ancestors, like that of every original Bakri man, are from Bomboko. But some of us want to define an Ambazonian by the place of birth of either of one's parents, or by the origin of the names we bear, or the places of origin of one's ancestry. Seriously? What's wrong with defining our identities by place of our birth? Why don't we find a formula that makes Ambazonia our sole and most important identifier? If you see me as a FACO president and not as Ambazonian president first and foremost, that is, you have been positively diagnosed for the most dangerous La Republican virus, more dangerous than COVID and Ebola.
La République du Cameroon is very surprised that from the consortium to the interim government, has redefined itself so much. La République du Cameroon has used the vision as a weapon since it annexed our country in 1961. It divided us into the so-called Northwest and Southwest and formed divisions and subdivisions along tribal lines. But we are a people, we are Ambazonians. Only a few infected and wannabe leaders still don't know that Ambazonia has totally rejected La République's divisive tactics. That is why La République du Cameroon's attempt to divide the interim government has failed. A leader who tells Ambazonian restoration forces fighting where they were born to go back to fight in their home where their parents were born or rejected. Reminding Ambazonians of his very important recognition speech of October 20th, 2022 regarding dictator Paul Biya and La République du Cameroon's rejection of every opportunity to dialogue with the interim government on the failed union of two states of equal status. He re-emphasized why the interim government's position has not changed. It is still recognition for Ambazonia. To be clear again, this is why the union for two states to have equal status Cameroon turned it into a very unequal relationship in which La République du Cameroon made itself the ruthless, genocidal dictator and master in Ambazonia. The subhuman slave only to be seen, ordered around, and humiliated if we complain. La République du Cameroon has rejected every recommendation as a meaningful solution from all well-meaning international stakeholders, namely the USA 2018 to abandon military option, the US and the EU 2019 to release all political prisoners, and the EU, USA, AU, Switzerland, Canada 2019 to go for Swiss-mediated dialogue. Similarly, La République du Cameroon has been taking stupid decisions to end it and failing. From the Bilingualism Commission to the Grand National Monologue, Special Status, Regional Councils, DDR, BIR, Reconstruction, Guard Presidential, Red Berets of Kutaba, Special Forces mercenaries from Sinac, leaning onto Russia, Spain, and Egypt, and the bogus Cameroon initiative in Canada that all failed, and all this while sitting on the Swiss-led mediated talks and withdrawing from it.
Cameroon has rejected every recommendation given to them by well-meaning international stakeholders. They were advised by the EU, by the USA, by Canada and AU and Switzerland to go for mediated dialogue between La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia. They refused. Their lean Russia, Spain and Egypt also will fail. And now that bogus Cameroon initiative in Canada too is another failure loaded.
President Sako explained the difference between mediated endorsed by the interim government and unmediated secret talks by La République du Cameroun, and why La République du Cameroun will keep failing. The interim government endorsed mediated talks because it has internationally accepted standards recommended by the international community, whereas unmediated talks are engineered by La Cameroon and therefore is unacceptable. The interim government will only engage in La République du Cameroun in mediated talks because it is internationally mandated, has official intermediaries, international standards that leads to negotiations and are used to resolve liberation wars and wars between countries. This makes the unmediated talks engineered by La République du Cameroun with zero standards a non-starter. As an aggressor who has already issued a death warrant on 8 million Ambazonians, La République du Cameroun cannot trust it. The interim government will not engage in unmediated talks in which La République du Cameroun talks down to and not across with, and not in the office, but in the corridors and preferred talks that lead to secret compromises or quid pro quo. Ambazonians take all actions as representatives of the living and all those savagely butchered by La République du Cameroun, so they did not die in vain. Confident in the interim government's choice of only a mediated solution, whether La République du Cameroun dropped its unmediated secret talks or not, the president motivated and encouraged the people to know that if République du Cameroun continues to reject mediated dialogues, Ambazonians must keep defending our people and our homeland until every Cameroon presence is turned to hell.
The IG will not engage in unmediated talks with people who have issued a death warrant on million Ambazonians. Those who want to hold direct talks with La République may as well go and meet Biya in Yaoundé, because direct talks need no official observers, no guarantors, no third-party guarantees of security, and no international standing. Also, direct talks can be held in private, but mediated talks are public knowledge and well-structured.
La République du Cameroun surrenders, is kicked out, or runs to the negotiation table. The word surrender is banished from the Ambazonian revolutionary lexicon. This is what the president said. Like the rest of the world, he has witnessed something mighty in Ambazonians. The spirit of Ambazonia, one of emancipation, resilience, relentlessness, defiance, determination, born out of our revolutionary education, and 61 years of subhuman treatment by the colonizer. lack of demoralization in our valiant Ambazonian Restoration Forces, and the millions of Independence Day recently, Ambazonians have taken their destiny into their hands. Ambazonia has reason to fall no more. The president showed that he is focused, convicted, and with the interim government and the Ambazonian Restoration Forces and the people rallying to push without surrender, Cameroon chooses a mediated solution or not, Ambazonia will keep fighting harder and will win by recognition or recognition, so no surrender. The Commander-in-Chief thanked all the Ambazonian Restoration Forces of Fako County for their valor and for enduring the devastating effects of 2 years of failed leadership by the ex-county executive. To inspire all the Ambazonian Forces in Fako County, the Commander-in-Chief President Dr. Sako said that the draft was for Ambazonian Restoration Forces projects all across the board in the county, as long as each was fighting for Ambazonia and not for the enemy. To achieve the goal of drafting big for Fako County, the federal capital of our great homeland, the president reminded the Ambazonian Restoration Forces of their very important status as our soldiers of the Liberation War, the ones whose battleground actions make anyone take us seriously. He also praised their unmatched patriotism and ultimate sacrifices, saying, Ambazonia greatly honors their sacrifices. He said even thoughts of dialogue are driven by the maximum economic and human sabotage they inflict on the enemy for trespassing on parts of our territory. He advised that collaboration should be with those fighting the enemy and not against their fellow Ambazonian Restoration Forces if they want to end this war well and fast. Through it all, they should remain loyal and empower your government, because just as a government without an army will be despised, so too soldiers without a government are treated like hungry militias.
Just as a government without an army will be despised, so too soldiers without a government are treated like hungry militias. We need a strong government and a strong army to succeed politically. As your CIC, I have followed with dismay the recent infiltration of your ranks by cheap La Republique proxy bidders who will stop at nothing to sell you to the enemy. They come in all forms. I call them $100 callers. As your CIC, I call on you all to be disciplined and loyal. Do not sell this match to cheap spoilers.
The interim government and the Ambazonian Restoration Forces need to be a strong and successful political team to negotiate from a strong position that represents the soldiers and the people's voices. Thus, at this point in the revolution, they must always be careful who they trust or think will not betray them, sell us, cash out, and get away after all their sacrifice. Although sensible collaboration within Ambazonian Restoration Forces, sister forces in Meme County through the year to be good, he warned the soldiers to always be vigilant and watch out for infiltrators who call from the diaspora and promise them a few dollars and cannot support but sell them to La Republique du Cameroon instead. They must avoid joining WhatsApp groups without knowing the creator's track record, the reasons for creating the group, and more. In other words, he said, never buy a fish without examining the head. As soldiers, they must be very careful on the internet, avoid follow or videos, avoid producing audios for people they do not know or trust. Like a father fully aware of the dangers of the internet and pleading for the safety of his sons and daughters, the Commander-in-Chief pleaded to the Ambazonian Restoration Forces not to trust anyone blindly, but to be smart, disciplined, and loyal, because if we fail, you will be the worst loser. For inspiration, he said the interim government under his leadership is committed and steadfast in its resolve to make sure we all reach our destination, Boya. That's why for 3 months, the nation has been contributing financially to support the resistance in each county, and Saturday was the turn of the historical, hospitable federal capital and home to every Ambazonian Fako. Thus, everyone was going to contribute more for the Ambazonian Restoration Forces in Fako County for their self-defense endeavors for everyone and against the enemy. More so, it is the ultimate last battleground and destination where all fighters will fight because every piece of it belongs to every Ambazonian. To conclude, the president reminded us that we fight because we have only one option, the option to have a free Ambazonia. An Ambazonia that is not in a one Cameroon setting. Everyone needs to know that federalism, special status, and confederation are all one Cameroon, which means one way to hell for annihilation. La République du Cameroon monsters have already killed over 50,000 of us and forced millions into refugee, IDP, internally displaced places and Ambazonian restoration forces status with no homes. We should make our most financial contributions to support our valiant Ambazonian restoration forces who have put their lives on the line defending our vulnerable people and homeland in order to sustain and strengthen their missions to kick out the enemy and occupiers from our territory. With that, the president called for the journey to Boya to continue with the kick of the Fako County Draft 2022.
We can say today was a Black Tuesday in Uganda as 11 people, including children, reportedly dead at the Salama School for the Blind in Luga Village, Mukono District, Uganda today, which is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. Now, in Mukono, Uganda, 11 people have been killed in a blaze that tore through a school for the blind in central Uganda in the early hours of Tuesday. It has been reported that a fire outbreak occurred at a boarding school meant for the blind, where students numbering 11 lost their lives in a rural community just outside Uganda capital Kampala. The school's administrator and police said this as well. Police said in a statement that 6 other people were hospitalized in critical condition. They said it was not just known what caused the overnight fire that gutted a girls' dormitory at Salama School for the Blind in the district of Mukono. Salama was built in April 1999 and caters for children and young adults between the ages of 6 to 25. Fatuma Ndizaba, a top official in Mukono, told local broadcasters that the victims, including girls between the ages of 7 to 10, were burnt beyond recognition. The victim's body will be identified only through DNA analysis, she said.
A small crowd that included distressed women gathered outside the school's gate. Police cordoned off the scene and military officials were seen investigating. Britain's Princess Anne, who is expected in the East African country this week, was scheduled to visit the school on Friday. Fires at schools have been a cause of concern for education officials in Uganda, where classrooms and dormitories are often crowded and there's usually no firefighting equipment in place. Officials have cited poor electrical connections as sparking blazes in some cases. Kinubi, the Salama School for the Blind administrator, acknowledged a lack of safety equipment like fire extinguisher.
The cause of the fire is currently unknown, but so far 11 deaths as a result of the fire has been confirmed, while 6 are in critical conditions and admitted to hospital, the Uganda Police Force said. The disaster occurred at about 1 in the southeast of the capital, Kampala. Police said an investigation has been launched into the cause of the fire, but did not specify if the victims were all students at the school.
Now, several fires have broken out at schools in the East African nation in recent years. In November 2018, 11 boys perished and another 20 suffered severe burns in a suspected arson attack at a boarding school in southern Uganda. 2 dormitories at a prominent boarding school in Kampala were destroyed in separate incidents in 2020. No one was hurt. In 2008, 19 elementary school students were killed in a nighttime fire at a boarding school in Kampala. Children's deaths in the Gambia and Indonesia, so much for you to know. But Gabellison has this report.
Children's deaths in the Gambia and Indonesia. What to know? Tainted cough syrups pulled from the shelves after they were linked to dozens of deaths. The recent deaths of dozens of children from acute kidney problems in the Gambia and Indonesia have caused alarm worldwide. They were possibly caused by harmful substances in medicinal syrups. The first fatalities were reported in the Gambia last month, prompting authorities to launch an investigation. Separately, Indonesia this month announced a ban on all syrup and liquid medicines after the reported deaths there of dozens of children, also from acute kidney injuries. There is no confirmed link between the cases in the two countries, but investigations are ongoing. Here is what to know about what has happened. The Gambia. In September, the government of the Gambia launched an inquiry into the deaths of 28 children from acute kidney problems after they took a paracetamol syrup to treat fever. In early October, the World Health Organization (WHO) said the deaths in the Gambia may be linked to 4 contaminated cough and cold syrups made by Maiden Pharmaceuticals, an Indian drug manufacturer. It said an investigation was underway, together with Indian regulators and the New Delhi-based company. The WHO said in a medical product alert on October 5th that excessive levels of the ethylene glycol and ethylene glycol had been found in the 4 products produced by Maiden Pharmaceuticals and sold in the Gambia. Promethazine oral solution, cofexamylene baby cough syrup, Makeoff baby cough syrup, and Magrip and cold syrup. The agency warned that their use may result in serious injury or death, especially in children. Diethylene glycol and ethylene glycol are alcoholic toxic chemicals used in industrial applications, such as the making of paints, ink, and brake fluids. They reportedly include altered mental states, stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. They might cause damage to the kidney, liver, and central nervous system. Gambian authorities on Friday ordered all cough and cold syrups in circulation in the country to be recovered, extending the scope of a previous recall for medicines containing paracetamol and promethazine syrup. Last week, police in the Gambia said in a preliminary investigative report that the number of child deaths had increased to at least 69. The report also said that deaths from acute kidney injury were linked to Indian-made cough syrups mentioned in the WHO's alert, according to news agencies. It did not name Maiden Pharmaceuticals directly, but included the company's 4 liquid products in question. Indian health authorities, who also conducted their own internal probe, halted all production at Maiden Pharmaceuticals in mid-October after discovering violations at its production facilities in Haryana state. The state drug regulator said the tainted products sold in the Gambia had been made at a factory in Haryana in December, according to Indian media reports. In view of the seriousness of the contraventions observed during the investigation and its potential risk to the quality, safety, and efficacy of the drug being produced, all the manufacturing activities of the firm is being stopped with immediate effect, said an order by federal and state drug authorities. Undaunted reached out to Maiden Pharmaceuticals but did not receive a response by the time of filing this report. Maiden Pharmaceuticals director Naresh Goyal told India's Economic Times newspaper that the deaths have been due to paracetamol syrup and not due to our cough syrup. Prashant Reddy, a lawyer and writer who researches drug regulations in India, said the country's drug regulatory laws are inadequate and outdated. In total, India has 38 regulators with limited jurisdiction, limited to their own states, and a lot of bad actors slip through the cracks, he told Al Jazeera. Reddy added that long-time government efforts to consolidate the system to create a more unified regulator have not been successful. Indonesia. Alongside WHO officials, the authorities formed a team of experts to investigate the fatalities. As the reported number of deaths first increased to 99 and then to 133, the country moved to impose a ban on sales and prescription of all syrup-based medications. Health Minister Budi Gunadi Sadikin said on Thursday that the deaths were among a total of 241 cases of kidney failure in 22 provinces, adding that most patients were children under the age of 5. Budi added that some of the medicinal syrups containing paracetamol in Indonesia also included ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol, the same ingredients that have been linked to the deaths of children in the Gambia. Indonesia's Food and Drug Agency announced on Thursday that 5 locally produced medicines out of 26 tested contained excessive levels of ethylene glycol. It said it had ordered the manufacturers to pull them out of circulation and destroy them. According to the agency, Maiden Pharmaceuticals products are not available locally. In its alert, The WHO said the four products identified in the Gambia may have been distributed through informal markets to other countries or regions. Other cases. In the winter of 2019 and 2020, at least 14 children died after taking an adulterated cough syrup prescribed to them by local doctor in India, administered Kashmir and the Jammu region. 12 of the deaths happened in the cold-best PC cough syrup manufactured by Himachal Pradesh-based Digital Vision contained diethylene glycol, according to media reports that cited authorities. The Jammu and Kashmir police have still not indicted the company, and a court case against it is still pending. In Nigeria, 84 children died in various parts of the country between late 2008 and early 2009 after taking a teething syrup tainted with diethylene glycol. The government at the time said there had been 111 reported cases of children who had fallen ill after taking the syrup called My Pikin. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amber News.
There you have it, the death of children with medicine, wrong medicine actually. Well, another interesting story we'll be looking at tonight is that of the UK's Prime Minister. But before we go into it, let's take a quick look at former PM Liz Truss. Mary Elizabeth Truss, born 26 July 1975, is a British politician who became the third female Prime Minister of the UK when she was sworn in by Queen Elizabeth II on September 6th, 2 days before the monarch died. She only served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 6th September to 25th October 2022. Now, when she resigned amid a financial and political crisis with a tenure of 50 days in office, making her the shortest serving Prime Minister in the United Kingdom's history. She previously held cabinet positions under Prime Minister David Cameron, Theresa May, and Boris Johnson, including serving as Foreign Secretary from 2021 to 2022. That's well enough where we'll stop about Liz Truss.
Right, moving on with what we know. On Wednesday, 19 October 2022, Truss assured Parliament during the weekly Prime Minister's question session that a fighter, not a quitter, but leading a ruling party is only possible with respect and credibility. Following a disastrous and rapidly reversed economic plan that the pound plunging and her government into chaos, she resigned on Thursday, 20th October, just a day after the Prime Minister's questions session, and just after 6 weeks in office. She quitted with part of her resignation speech saying, in quote, "I recognize that given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party."
From Liz Truss' resignation speech, one would not be wrong to say she couldn't handle the responsibilities that follows being the Prime Minister of the UK, and that's why she had to resign. Quoting her, she says, "I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected." And following that, she says, "There will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on the path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic and national security." She says she cannot do the job, so steps down for someone else who can do it to take over. Well, I'd say more honorable than making things worse. She ended her speech by saying, "I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor is chosen."
Speaking of a successor apart from Rishi Sunak, Penny Mordaunt also had support in the party as a possible successor to Liz. Not forgetting, she stood in for Liz Truss earlier this week. There was also support in the party for Penny Mordaunt, an experienced figure who earlier this week stood in for Truss in Parliament. But after a leadership contest to decide the next head of the ruling party, who will by default become the next Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who was Boris Johnson's former finance minister, who was pointed out the folly of Truss' economic plan and also came second to Truss in the race Boris Johnson, has been elected by Conservative members of Parliament as the new leader and hence Prime Minister of the United Kingdom today, the 25th of October 2022.
Rishi Sunak, after meeting with King Charles III on Tuesday morning today, is now officially United Kingdom's Prime Minister. Now he met with the king in the palace's 1844 room, where the king invited him to form a government. Sunak had arrived at the palace around 10:15 a.m. to meet the king shortly after Liz Truss tendered her resignation letter to the king in the same palace. Sunak will be UK's third leader in 7 weeks after winning a Tory leadership contest triggered by Truss stepping down. We can only hope his tenure is not abruptly cut short because of some scandal or lack of credibility. We can only hope he stands the test of time.
We the people. AmbaTV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless. The voice of Ambazonia. Connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories. Africa's best.
And in sports, match day 5 of the UEFA Champions League continues on Wednesday with some decisive matches scheduled to take place.
Now, Inter Milan will be playing host to Victoria Plzen. A victory for Inter Milan will see them qualify for the next round of the competition. Well, Gabellison has more.
Latest world sports. Football. UEFA Champions League. Match day 5 of the UEFA Champions League continues on Wednesday with some decisive matches scheduled to take place. Inter of Milan will be playing host to Victoria Plzen. A victory for Inter will see them qualify for the next round of the competition. Club Brugge will battle things out with FC Porto. Eintracht Frankfurt will lock horns with Olympique Marseille. Barcelona will exchange lessons with Bayern Munich. Ajax will take on Liverpool. A victory for Liverpool will see them qualify for the next round of the competition. Atletico Madrid will be playing host to Bayern Leverkusen at the Wanda Metropolitano. Tottenham will entertain Sporting while Napoli will clash with Scottish giants Rangers. Unai Emery, Aston Villa appoint Villarreal manager as head coach. Aston Villa has appointed Unai Emery as manager following the sacking of Steven Gerrard. The former Arsenal boss Emery, who had been in charge of Spanish club Villarreal, will take over at Villa on 1st November. Villa has paid a £5.2 million buyer fee to Villarreal for the 50-year-old. Caretaker Aaron Danks will again take charge at Newcastle this weekend after Gerrard was dismissed last week following a 3-0 Premier League defeat by Fulham. Emery, who would have been out of contract at Villarreal next summer, will begin work next week after his work permit formalities are completed, Villa said. They added, Aston Villa is delighted to announce the appointment of Unai Emery as the club's new head coach, a highly experienced top-level coach who has managed over 900 games. Unai has also previously managed in the Premier League during a spell with Arsenal, leading the Gunners to a Europa League final. He has also enjoyed notable success at Sevilla and at Paris Saint-Germain. In Sevilla, he won 3 successful Europa League titles between 2013 and 2016, before going on to lift a Ligue 1 championship in France, as well as 2 French Cups, 2 French League Cups, and 2 Trophée des Champions. Emery joined Villarreal in 2020 and led them to Europa League success in the 2020-2021 season, beating Manchester United in the final. The Spanish club also reached last year's Champions League semi-finals under Emery, losing 5-2 to Liverpool on aggregate. Emery's Villarreal appointment followed his sacking after just 18 months as Arsenal manager on November 2019. After failing to win in 7 games, the Gunners' worst run since February 1992. During this time in North London, he took Arsenal to the Europa League final, losing to Chelsea in 2019. Villa beat Brentford 4-0 on Sunday under caretaker Danks, just their 3rd win in 12 Premier League games this season, which left them 14th, 3 points above the relegation zone. The club had also held talks with representatives of Sporting Lisbon coach Ruben Amorim. Basketball. NBA. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant score high in Brooklyn Nets defeat at Memphis Grizzlies. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant scored 37 points apiece, but couldn't prevent the Brooklyn Nets falling to their second defeat of the season at the hands of the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies won 134-124, with Desmond Bain setting career highs of 38 points and 8 three-pointers. Ja Morant also added 38 as Memphis pulled away in the third quarter after trailing at halftime. Durant's tally moved him up to 20th on the NBA's all-time scoring list. He now has 25,622 points, putting him ahead of 8-time All-Star Alex English. Elsewhere on Monday night, the Boston Celtics' winning start to the season ended in a 120-102 defeat by the Chicago Bulls. DeMar DeRozan scored 25 points, Aya Dosunmu added 22, and Nikola Vucevic recorded 18 points and 23 rebounds for the Bulls, whose victory came after 2 defeats. Jason Tatum scored a game-high 26 points for Boston, who had won their opening 3 games. This win of the season for the Philadelphia 76ers, as James Harden led them to a 120-106 victory over the Indiana Pacers, and Harden made 29 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds, with Joel Embiid adding 26 points. The Portland Trail Blazers continued their blistering start to the campaign with a 4th win, with a 135-110 over Nuggets. Damian Lillard recorded 31 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds for Portland, who have opened the season with 4 wins for the first time since 1999 to 2000. There was a first win for the season for the Houston Rockets over the previously unbeaten Utah Jazz, as well as victories for the Toronto Raptors, San Antonio Spurs, and New York Knicks. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amber News.
And with the sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories.
Tonight, we looked at Bamenda this morning after a routine Monday ghost town. Bishop of Mamfe thanks negotiators for the release of collaborators abducted in Chang village. And we also looked at Ngo, presumably trying to overthrow the alien Bia.
We also told you the sad story of 11 people, including children, reportedly dead at the Salama School for the Blind in Luga Village, Mukono District, Uganda today. And in sports, Match Day 5 of the UEFA Champions League continues on Wednesday. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing you the news on church stories. On behalf of my co-anchor, Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Good night and God bless you.